Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Ready Inc. So this Friday is pre-release for BT15. I know we just had the side set for EX5, but BT15 is going to be a very long format for us. So of course we've got to do our tier list prediction video. We did pretty well on the last one, I think. If you look at the results from Nats, we only missed it by 2. There was only 2 things that we didn't count on out of top 64. We missed 2 lists, so I think it was pretty good. So I expect today's to be no less amazing. Now, some caveats to this. 1, a new ban list comes into effect on March 1st, so that's going to be roughly like 2 weeks and some change after the release of BT15, as well as that same week is the release of the new Terriermon advanced deck. So we're actually going to base this off of that. Whenever that comes out, the new ban list is in effect. That's what this list is going to be based off. So it's roughly 2 weeks after the BT15 release is when this will be the prediction. Mainly because of the hits on the ban list is going to be the Anubis deck as well as the Dark Masters deck with the Apocalypse. Those decks completely destroy the meta. Like, it completely skews everything so drastically because some decks can't perform well because those decks bring them down so far, whereas in other matches the decks would do better if those decks didn't exist. And so I think that's going to be a big part of this. If you take those two and bring their power level down to only having 1 copy, then it's going to allow a lot of these other decks to actually be better than what they would be normally. Okay, so just keep that in mind when we go through this. It's going to be a long one. Also, don't forget to check out our Etsy page, link in the description below. If you're playing one of these decks, there's a great chance that we have a perfect memory marker that'll go absolutely amazing with whatever deck you're playing. So if there's something that we don't have, you can also message us through the Etsy page and get a custom order made for usually just pretty much the same price as whatever a normal memory marker would cost. So definitely go check that out. All right, so we've got our tier list pulled up here, and just to show you how massive this is. So this is incredibly encompassing. We will kind of blast through some of these that are going to be kind of vague and not really like overly important. This was made by our good friend Kyle Cohen here. We also featured his deck actually from one of the top 64 decks. He was the yellow hybrid with the Marcuses and the Agumon like Rush style deck. That was his deck. So thank you to Kyle for making this. I always end up like leaving something off every time I make a tier list. I forget about one thing, and then like everyone hits me in the comments for forgetting to put it on here. So hopefully this time we'll have everything, because this is massive. So we're just going to start cranking through this. Yeah. So let's just rock and roll here. So first up, we've got Blue Hybrid. I think Blue Hybrid is still pretty tier 1 here. It had some good showings at Nats here, made top 64. It's just a really good, solid deck that's just still doing really well with what it does. It's got great stun, as well as really great aggro, with the multiple swings and multiple security checks that you can get with the Metal Greymon here with the right inheritables. Yeah, it's just a really solid deck still, I think. Next up, we've got Sakuyamon here. This is going to be your Sakuyamon Pure. This isn't going to be like your Yellow Hybrid or your Setcon build. This is going to be pure Sakuyamon. I think tier 4 is pretty solid. Unfortunately, the deck like pretty much almost entirely 100% revolves around having your Rikas on field, and if you don't see those fast enough, you just lose. Like, thankfully there's mulligan, so if you don't see one in your opening hand, you can give it another shot. So yeah, we're gonna throw that in tier 4 just because it's so dependent on that. You just cannot super rely on it. Next we got Bloom. Bloom not having a big turnout at Nats, but I still think the deck is super solid. It can do extremely well. It can go super wide as long as there isn't anything too punishing. I think a big issue with it being not showing up at Nats is because there was too many hard counters to Anubis floating around, not being able to play Digimon by effect. With Anubis going out, I think we'll see a rise back of Bloom here, because there's going to be less people running like incredible amounts of thick counterplay to that deck, so Bloom will have a much better chance here. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it up here into tier 2. I feel pretty solid about that. Next, we have the Dark Knight deck, which unfortunately just has not done anything pretty much for the most part in a long time. So I'm gonna have to just throw it down here into tier 4. It's just, it doesn't have anything to back it up of doing well. I haven't seen it even top a locals. So yeah, I can't justify putting it any higher than that. I don't know what this Omni is supposed to represent here. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that off because I don't know what that's supposed to represent. Next, we got Jessmon here. Jessmon still, it's got the Savior back after that one ban list, so it's a lot better now. It can get really, really aggro. Unfortunately, the control version of Jessmon just is not good enough to withstand most of the decks that are in tier 1 and tier 2, but the aggro play is still a good way to play the deck. Unfortunately, I think there's just better aggro decks out there. So if you just want to play a really, really like fast red deck, just play Wargreymon X because it's going to do everything this does, but better and more efficiently and quicker. Next, we've got the Shoutmon deck. So this is going to be your, your Cross 7 Superior Mode builds. Which last year's Nats made it to the finals of. Unfortunately, the deck is it's in an awkward place. We do get Cross 2. Cross 2 will be in this set it's treated as Ballistamon and Shoutmon, so it's going to be a great cross material, just like bumping up your copies of stuff, as well as with it being treated as Ballistamon, you can play it off of the Green Tamer for free, so there's really solid value there in that card. So I think that's going to bring it up. Now, where it's going to fall, I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to be a little optimistic. I'm going to put it at the low end of tier 2, like low end of tier 2. Next, we got Black Wargreymon X. Yeah, I mean, I'm still on that ride there. We're gonna throw it up here in the tier 1. I love Black Wargreymon X because it's a fantastic control deck. It can control the opponent's field super easily by attacking over stuff, unsuspending, deleting stuff. It's got really, really fantastic protection abilities, like all throughout the whole Evo stack, wherever you want to go with it. And you just want to tech in the protection effects, it's got that, as well as it's got the secure, like it can get really aggro and go heavy into security, unsuspend, trash of security, depending on how the build you want to do. So I really like Black Wargreymon X. It's a great, all around deck that can handle lots of different situations, pretty nicely. So yeah, we'll throw that one there. Next we got I believe this is the Galactimon deck. It's another one that just hasn't had any great toppings. It did get a new promo recently, but if that's going to be enough or not, I'm not sure to really bring it up to where it needs to be. I have seen this deck do really, really well when it pops off. When you see your pieces and you see them quick enough and in the right order, the deck can absolutely crush it. However, that's not always the case. I know in Ultimate Cup, when it was monocolor, this one actually had a good amount of tops here and there. So, in a format like that, it is pretty solid. But yeah, we'll throw it here into kind of just mid-range. Red Hybrid, of course, we're going to throw it up here. We'll throw it up here at the top. That's fine. This is probably the only playable, I would say. Maybe not the others aren't unplayable, but this is the only competitive hybrid that's still out there. It did get another wave of support where the other ones haven't got support in ages, so that definitely helped boost it up. But hybrid decks are just so difficult to deal with because their tamers just sit there. And in a format where there's not a lot of tamer hate, Red Hybrid can just get away with so many extra wins because, no one expects there to be a ton of hybrids. So anytime that kind of comes around, you can definitely get away with a lot of wins on Red Hybrid. It's super aggro, super fast, and it can just crush in a couple turns and just take games super fast. We got All Force next, which we'll throw up here, top of tier 2. It's another one of those decks where if it sees its pieces, it can just completely ramp so fast and just get all the way up, and then it just repeatedly plays out its arenas and then just keeps unsuspending attack, unsuspend attack, control the opponent's board in the process, get rid of all their stuff out of the way, all those blockers, clear them out. But it's another one that's like you kind of you need to see a lot of pieces, but it can get away with having a flexible amount. Unlike the one down here, the Sakuyamon deck, there's only 4 tamers in the whole deck that work. Whereas at least with the Old Force deck, you can use other tamers and still get really good value out of doing your whole shenanigans. So super fast aggro deck, we'll definitely throw it up there. Next, we got Imperial Dramon here. I do love me some Imperial Dramon. Until BT16, though, I don't think this deck is going to be doing all that great. It's got the jamming and stuff like that, but in any kind of format where you've got any kind of kill options, like this just absolutely gets annihilated. Losing your Pyldramon with all your pieces underneath it because of, you hit a fly bullet or something like that, and boom, it's dead. Yeah, and then you're starting completely over. Usually you just can't build back fast enough. The formats here have been so fast. You don't have time to build back up a second time with a whole new stack anymore. So unfortunately for that, we'll have to throw it down here. But once we get Partition will be an absolute game changer for this deck, and I absolutely expect it to go higher. Next, we got Chaos Dramon, your Machine Dramon, Mugen, whatever you want to call it. We get more support here. We're getting all the sock stuff to be determined what it all helps with, but the new option like absolutely ramps this thing up. I'm really, really impressed with it. I wanted to put top tier 2, maybe bottom of tier 1. We'll go top tier 2, but it's got the potential to be tier 1. Just that new option really, really helps it a ton. I mean, you can play your EX1 Machine Dramons for even cheaper now. Very, very efficient. It's a searcher with the delay ability, so you get to add something, trash something. That option card is like a 4 of in all Machine Dramon decks moving forward, and I think it will help it tremendously, as well as a new Hagirmon for even more search power. Machine Dramon is going to be in just as good a position as always, and it's hanging in there. The meta advances, and it gets just enough support to advance it along with the meta. Next, we got Hunters here. Hunters, it had a little bit of a showing, not a ton. It's one of those decks that's just in and out all the time. The Arrested Dramon can be a really powerful card in the right format, where it can, put big stack targets underneath tamers and stuff like that, and getting them off the field. So any kind of format where that's a big part of it, Arrested Dramon really, really pops off, as well as it's got pretty good aggro with multiple swings, multiple security checks. Can do really, really solid with plenty of tech stuff in there as well. If you want to run Quartzmon in there, you can totally do that as well. So yeah, we'll throw ahead and put Hunters up there. Next, we got Beelzemon here, and so a few people flamed me in the last one for putting Beelzemon so low, and Beelzemon actually has had a really good showing here. It's another one of those that's like, I want to put it in tier 1, but it's such an RNG deck that if you don't hit decent RNG, it just falls apart so bad. But that said, it can play the RNG game so many times, like just every single turn you can do 2-3 RNG checks on your mills, and if you get the mills you need, then yeah, but it'll pop off. But if you don't, then yeah, you're in a bad position. So I'm gonna put it here in top tier 2. It has had showings, so I will at least bump it up here into high tier 1. Next, we got Belphemon here. Belphemon's another one of those that just kind of comes and goes. Man, this is a tough one. It's like I want to put it a little higher than these guys, but also I feel like they're in a good position too, but it can really stomp those guys. We'll throw it right here, middle of pack tier 2. It's the only like draw trash engine that's still like holding in there for purple at this point, and poor purple is just in a really rough spot these days. So if you're looking for draw trash engines, this is going to definitely be probably your only bet at this point moving forward after the limit list. All right, next we've got Royal Knights. Royal Knights still one of those decks I think is going to be in a fantastic position, especially moving out of this Anubis format. So playing Digimon by effects, those kind of floodgates are going to be out, going out. Not, all the Psychmons that were flooding around everywhere and preventing play cost reduction, those are going to be out. So with all those cards leaving the meta in like force, they'll go back down to their normal amounts. I expect another rise in Royal Knights. So just a really solid aggro deck. Again, it's got lots of flexibility. It's got all those megas. You use the ones you need for the right situations at the right time, and then that you just have to stall your opponent out just long enough to build up just enough to take that game. Next, we've got our Shine Greymon deck here. I think Shine Greymon also just in a really great position. We'll probably put it a little higher than Black War Greymon. It's still getting tops, tons and tons of tops. It's doing well. It had a little bit of a hit to it with the Geo Gray, but there were still 2 other Geo Grays that it can choose from. So 3 really good duo color Geo Grays that it can pick from. So the deck was hit, but not like overly detrimentally hard. It still has its both tamers at full power, and all, and it's good shine, and it's and not ruin mode. It does have ruin mode, but burst mode. This deck can just crush so easily, and it's still got tons of consistency power. Next, I forget what this is. I looked it up the other day, and I totally forgot. This is Breakdramon, I believe. I don't know. I'm going to put that one back down there for a minute. Next, we got Mirage here. Mirage took the UK, or the European Nationals, and still showed up in force in the US, even with Anubis being super popular. The decks, once those other ones come down, so there's no reason that Mirage can't just completely, come right back in full force. Pre-EX5, Mirage was slated as the best deck, so I mean, in all actuality, there's no reason I can't put it there, because it has the backing, the stats to prove that the deck is good enough, and it beat out all these other decks in the pre-EX5 format. So BT14 format, it was the top tier. So after the EX5 limits, and when we go into EX15 or sorry BT15, I think Mirage is still going to be excellent. BT15. There's not a ton of decks that are like super meta impactful. Unfortunately, there was, and then they limited the card. So, but it was disgusting. So if you haven't ever seen Apocalypse at full power, the deck just literally will mill you out in just a couple turns, and you can't do anything about it because they'll put the Craniumon underneath and it becomes unaffected, and it's just a big beefcake. Awful card. So Mirage, I think, is still going to be way up there. Next, we got our Kentaurusmon deck. Man, where to put you? I feel like bottom of tier 3, top of tier 4. We'll go top of tier 4. It's just one of those. It's okay, but if you don't get the setup, then it doesn't really do enough to be super impactful. It doesn't have really good aggro to really, make it a contender. It doesn't have defensive capabilities quite enough. It's just a cool, fun deck. I'll leave it at that. It's a cool, fun deck. Next, we got Rosemon. Rosemon is like a watered down Bloomlord, I want to say. Bloomlord at least has text for dealing with multiple situations and things like that. Whereas Rosemon's very limited. It's like we have to get into our burst mode as quickly as possible, and then repeatedly go into burst mode every single turn until we win. And if our opponent isn't playing a deck that really allows burst mode to get great value, then the deck just falls flat. So if you're playing against a single stack deck, what do? You don't get any good value out of your burst mode here. So that's the drawback here. So I'm going to throw it down here into tier 3, just because of that. If you're playing against certain matchups, absolutely amazing, incredible stuff. Against other matchups, absolutely terrible, no chance of winning. Moving on from there, I totally messed that up. This is Belphemon. This is Bagra. Okay. All right. So yeah, whoever, totally has already written a comment about this. This is Bagra here. So I'm going to put Belfa there where we discussed that. Now we'll do Bagra. Bagra showed up to Nats. He showed up and did well, and everyone was talking about it throughout the whole day. They're like, did you know that Bagra is like up there in like the high end single digits of the tables? They're like, it's doing really well. It's topping. And yeah, sure enough. I think the trick with this deck, though, is if you know how to play it or you don't know how to play against it. Yeah, I imagine if you play it, you're playing it, you know how to play it. If you're playing against it, a lot of people don't know all the interactions that you can do, and you'll just completely steal people's turns over and over and over because they're not aware of all the different interactions that this deck does to steal games. So I'm going to throw this up here, probably just right here. Because it is very powerful, it can pop off if the opponent plays into it. Then yeah, you just will crush them every single time. But against a higher end player, you can't really get a ton of capitalization on a lot of that stuff. So yeah, we're gonna throw Bagra right there. Man, totally messed that up earlier. Next we got Ravemon here. Ravemon got a couple waves of support here. I don't know if it's gonna be enough. It's one of those decks that's got some cool mechanics that other decks just don't have. One of which is like the trashing of the hand. Like you can control your opponent by trashing a bunch of their cards, which is really cool. As well as it's got really good recursion, so you can just kind of keep bouncing back, which is really awesome. It's now got its burst mode as well, so that's cool. I think we'll throw it up in here at a higher end tier 3. It feels pretty good. Next we've got, what is this? This is the 4 Great Dragons deck. This deck can be super annoying if you give it time. It's got to see its pieces, and it's got to get up into those pieces and then get the basically the loops going. And if you can get Venusmon out and you can repeatedly loop the Magnadramon? I think it's Magnadramon. Yeah, the big pink dragon. If you can keep looping her over and over, and then on play minus security attack while you have that Venusmon on field, you're going to repeatedly just hit their board over and over and over. So you can do that, 5 times? So 1 off the Venusmon and then 4 off the Magnadramons. Very frustrating, but it is a bit of a gimmick. And you have to see the pieces for it to actually do anything. So yeah, we'll throw it there. It's a really irritating stun deck that isn't super easy to capitalize on all that much. Next we got Vaccine Angels, still a really solid deck here. I think we'll throw it up here, tier 1. It hasn't had a ton of showings. It did have some. Well, I say it had a fair amount in the BT14 format, which is kind of we're pseudo going back into that. BT15 is basically just adding in some support for some other decks that have just been kind of very low for a long time, and they're bringing them up. So I don't think it's going to be like a meta warping set or anything like that. Neither will the advanced deck. And then as long as we're hitting the really bad cards with that, the limit list on March 1st, then I feel pretty comfortable leaving Vaccines up here. Numemon. What is up with Numemon in the JP format? Just killing it. Absolutely killing it. But I think that's also in part because of future support as well. Right now it's just a really good floating deck. It can just keep pieces on board, just kind of like Chumon or Sukamon decks. It's got some really good floating power to it, things like that. So we'll see some more support, and I think this deck will do a little bit better. So until then, I'm going to put it in tier 3, but it's on the rise. So keep that in mind for you Numemon players out there. You like playing with your snot, then you're going to love playing Numemon. Next, we got Commandramon. This is going to be your D Brigade deck. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to get off the copium. The deck's just not doing anything. It's doing some, but it's not doing nearly as much as I thought it would. So because of that, I'm going to have to throw it down here into like mid tier 2. These other decks have shown that they can do more than it can. Now, again, that was partially because of the EX5 format. All the Anubis techs were also hitting this deck. Can't play Digimon by effect. Same with the Bloom Lord. Like just the same for D Brigade. They really, really hate that. Really messes them up. Also, people were running stuff like Ruin Mode in full force. They were running Death X in full force to deal with the Anubis Merva like shenanigans. So like those same cards just really, really hit D Brigade hard. So with those cards going out, I definitely expect D Brigade to do better. You know what? In fact, we'll bump it up at least 1. I think it's just as good as these guys here. So yeah, expect it to do better moving forward. Next, we'll go up here into Finra Lugamon. I think this is going to be your purple deck of choice. Next to Beelzemon. Yeah, it's another one of those that it hasn't had a ton of showings. You know what? I'm going to put it up in tier 1 because we've got a new wave of support. BT15 gives it more support. We got the new Luga, the new Lugar. So that'll definitely help. And then, it gets even more support here for the next little bit here. So I definitely think this deck is going to stick around. So I feel comfortable leaving it in tier 1. It's really, really solid. It's got crazy good aggro. It's got really solid board control with deleting the opponent's Digimon. So yeah, it's got a nice like round package to deal with a lot of stuff. So yeah, tier 1 for Lugamon. Next, we've got War Greymon. This is going to be your red War Greymon decks. Super aggro, no real control element to it besides the raid that you can do with it. It's just a hardcore like aggro, punch your opponent for all their security and then go blitz Omni for game. The idea is you go into this, the secret War Greymon, you blitz, and you swing, and then you evo into the War Greymon X, and so you got your piercing, so even if they block or whatever, and then you gain all that memory back from the War Greymon X to keep it on your turn, and then you go into Blitz Omnimon for game. So yeah, out of all the OTK decks, I think this is going to be the best one. I'm just gonna put it up here to Black War Greymon. I know they're finally at least splitting on like how the deck is played. The low end is pretty much identical for these decks, but the end goal and the end strategy, I should say, is very different. Control versus just OTK. But yeah, I'll leave it up here with at least Royal Knights. Here, we'll do this just to differentiate a little bit. We'll put Royal Knights a little bit higher there. All right, going on here. Next, we've got Lord Nightmon. It got that new Nightmon promo kind of recently, which is cool. I feel like the deck just needs more. I'm gonna throw it down here into tier 4. It's got good rush potential. I'll leave it at that. If we had a few more rush targets that it could go with, I think it would be really solid. I mean, because essentially this is like Anubis and Merva like crammed into one here. So if you can get a Nightmon swinging multiple times, playing out free bodies, if you have enough rush targets, then yeah, you're going to be killing it. But right now we just have the one Bushi Agumon, so you can't rely on just that. All right, next we got Setcon here. I can totally do this because it won, or it did not win. Sorry, it got second place at the US Nats. So I'll absolutely put it at the top of the food chain. My favorite deck. Setcon is just Setcon. I mean, it's a stupid, frustrating deck to deal with. All these decks that turbo through their own deck super fast. They're digging for pieces. Their hand size is like 20 cards deep. Setcon's just like recover one, stun. None of your stuff can do anything for this turn. You're going to continue to draw. Okay. Stun. Recover one. Okay. Now you have 8 security to work through. Filled with security bombs. So yeah, good luck. And then, you decked yourself out. Imagine that. Yeah, Setcon's stupid annoying. But yeah, so I'm going to put it in tier 1. Realistically, it's somewhere here in tier 1. Yeah. We'll put it right about there. Actually, I would put it there because these decks are hard to counter. So, with Setcon, I think these guys have a better matchup against Setcon than the rest do. All right, moving on from there, we got our Bonds decks here. Still needing some support here. I think red and blue both are pretty unplayable. Having to lose all that security, and it's like you get one big push turn, and if you don't push, if you don't basically pretty much guarantee you're going to win, you just lose. There's too many fast decks that can just bounce back and rush you down. So until they get more support, I think these guys are going to be unplayable. Eosmon, who doesn't love some Eosmon? We'll at least put it in tier 4 for you guys. All level 5 Eosmon decks, 50 cards. Let's go. Eosmon's got some cool tricks to it. I think it just kind of depends on how you play it, though. You have to play it in the right way to get it to work, at least to be decent. If you're trying to play it how it's intended to be played, you're not gonna do all that well. But if you do there's some odd techs, odd combos you can do with the deck that actually make it somewhat playable. BL Star, oh man, BL Star is in a bad spot right now. There's just not really any good mill engines in the game anymore. Once the ban list goes, we lost our Eismon, and then which could totally come back because the reason they hit it was because of the Apocalypmon. Now that they hit Apocalypmon, bring Eismon back because without Eismon, BL Star is kind of unplayable. It's just in a really bad spot. We gained the Garurumon engine, the Draw Trash Garurumon engine, which was doing great. We had some great BL Star Mon tops. But once that goes away, we're back in the same position, and we just don't have good hand sculpting. The whole thing purple is known for is draw trash, and we just don't have a whole lot of that. So without that, BL Star is in a bad spot. Blue Hybrid. I think I'll throw it down here in a tier 3. You know what? It's higher than these guys. Yeah, we'll put it right there. It can still just do everything it's always done. It's got some cool new text that you can, add. We got the Gomamon that is unblockable. You Evo on top of it, it plays itself back out. We're getting Gomamon X, so you can literally go Gomamon, make itself unblockable, go Gomamon X, and then just attack, and then it dies in security, and that the regular Gomamon just plays itself right back out because of its inheritable. It's good. So a blue deck that can get away with running in it is absolutely awesome. Beowulf here, level 5, Evo for 1, solid board control. Yeah, I think it's still just as good as ever. So yeah, we'll throw it there. Yellow Hybrid. This is not going to be Kyle's list where it's got the 2 hybrids and then the rest is all kinds of crazy stuff. This is going to be your traditional yellow hybrid. You're running all 9 of the yellow hybrids. You're running the 4 Zoes. This is yellow hybrid, and unfortunately, it's so slow. And it just doesn't have a ton of great recovery. We do have the new Magna Angemon at least, so that makes it a little bit better. So, you can get some recovery off of that. So it can still kind of do some of the same stuff. You know what? Let's put it... I'm feeling a little cheeky today. Let's put it up here a little bit higher in tier 3. The Magna Angemon, I think, is the only thing that's going to bring this deck up to make it somewhat, decent. Without the Magna Angemon, the new, Blast Evo, not at all. Green Hybrid next. Green Hybrid, just, one of those decks that's been in a bad spot for a while. Assuming you're running the Christmas Hybrid, so you get the red rookies with the green Tamers and level 4 and higher. That's kind of the only way to run this deck. We'll put it here with the Pyldramon and the Imperial deck, because that's about on par with each other on how they were performing. Next, we've got purple here, kind of the same lines. This is going to be the only way I ever saw this deck be decent was with the Cherubi package, and that was only during BT7 when this deck was a thing. So we'll put it somewhere down here. Man, I can't even put it that high. We'll put the purple hybrid Cherubi deck right there. Myotismon's getting support. Myotismon's actually kind of cool now. Where it's going to fall, I have no idea. I've not seen the deck do anything, but it's got some support, which is cool. I'll put it here because it should at least do better than poor Bielstar, because Bielstar is in a bad spot. Myotismon can at least do its things a little bit more efficiently now. As long as you can keep playing out the Myotismons for free and then like getting that free security trash and everything like that, yeah, it should be pretty awesome. All right, next we got Melga here. Melga getting new support. Purple Melga, that engine did get hit. It's limited, so you can still run those cards, just in fewer quantities. It did win, what was it? That California regional back in December. So clearly it's doing pretty all right here. I think we'll put it up here into high tier 1. So it's going to be pretty much a blue base. Like purple base is really dead. You can at least still use the X's though. Your Gabu X and your Garuru X, even at a 1 of, I think they're still worth running. But even before those cards existed, the deck was still doing really well. It's still a solid aggro deck. It's just in a bad spot. Any kind of format that has a lot of option heavy decks, this deck will suffer. But out of those formats, unfortunately, I got to put Setcon a little higher because it does not play well against Setcon. It actually gets absolutely wrecked by Setcon. So we'll put it one level below that. But yeah, against all these others, yeah, it can absolutely out turbo them very, very efficiently. Next, we got Armors here. Man, Armors is just... I wish Armors would be doing better, but it's not. You know what? We'll put it high tier 3. The issue with Armors is if there's any kind of stuff like Black War Greymon, right? That was a big example. Any kind of big, multiple blocks per turn sort of decks that can just stop you from attacking. Machingermon, potentially Royal Knights, Black War, Vaccine can hit it mid-attack with DP minus. There's a lot of decks being heavily played that can counter this, and because of that, we can't quite put it up because there's too much keeping it down. The man is keeping him down. Poor Armors. But we are getting more support here in BT16, so be on the lookout for Armors making a climb in BT16. Next, we got Guilemon here, and Guilemon is... it has the same base engine as the other 2 Greymon decks, and because of that, it's still super solid. It literally, there's 2 cards that change. It's almost Black War Greymon. Literally, you can run Black War Greymon in this together. So I think because of that, I want to definitely put Guilemon pretty high. He's like a hybrid between the 2 decks. He's got the Blitz, he's got the security attack +1, right? He just doesn't have the memory efficiency that the others have. Now, at least we have other things like, the training options that can help make the ease into this a little bit better. So I think we'll throw it up somewhere high tier 2. The Mega isn't quite as strong as these other guys. It's not particularly good at one thing or the other. But I do love Guilemon. It is my favorite Digimon in all of Digimon franchise. So Black War Greymon with Samurai Armor, I'm all about it. Next we got Alphamon here. Alphamon not performing as well as I would hope. I don't think the new Our Umon support does anything for it. All that much, but there is some synergy there, so I'll throw it into low tier 2 because there are some cards you could run with the old Alphamon deck, so the potential is there. Next we got D Reaper, everyone's favorite. D Reaper is almost on par with dislikes as Setcon. Setcon is still definitely worse, but I think the second most hated deck might be D Reaper. Yeah, it's just annoying. If you don't have the counters for it, it's gonna crush you. If you do have the counters for it, you crush it, no problem. So yeah, I'm gonna just throw it up in here, high tier 3. The deck is still good. Damn it, I gotta put it higher. I'll put it right here. Below Bogger, because Bogger did turn up at Nats top 64, whereas D Brigade did not. So we'll put it one level below them. All right, man, this list is giant. Justimon here. Cool gimmick. I love Justimon, like the concept of Justimon. I love the design and everything like that, but the deck just doesn't do anything. Anything well, at least. I'm gonna throw it below Eosmon. It's just this deck's just never done anything, sadly. Next we got Gallantmon. I do love Gallantmon. There's a couple different ways to play Gallantmon. I'm gonna throw it up. Man, do I put it right there? I feel like maybe here. I want to put it in tier 2, but it just doesn't have the tops. The mill Gallantmon, like the millith, right, where you use the low end, the purple low end of Gallantmon to like mill your opponent. That's really good. But like Gallantmon Crimson Mode Pure here is very dependent on what the format is doing, and until this deck gets some defensive capabilities, it's not in a good position. It needs protection effects as well as some sort of defensive tech, right? Give it blocker. I mean, dang, give me a Gilmon that gives a blocker inheritable. I know it's weird, but give it something to deal with. Because it's control, sure. When it attacks, it can delete a bunch of stuff. But if your opponent sits in raising area or they play out a bunch of stuff with rush, you just got to sit there and just take every single one of those hits, which is super annoying. It just needs a little bit of support. Like, it's almost there. It's almost like tier 1. I mean, we're talking high tier 2, low tier 1 with just literally those inclusions. Like, give it some sort of defensive tech, and then, in both departments, like deletion prevention and like blocker or something. All right, next we got Dorbrick. I think this deck's still tier 2. I think I would put it above these other guys because at least it's had some turnouts. Not like it hasn't won anything, but it's at least topped a decent amount of stuff. So I'll throw it up in here into like low tier 2-ish. It's fast, right? If you see your pieces and you just pop off, boom, you win. You can win by turn 2. You just hard drop this guy with like if you just draw the nuts turn 1, like you get a mulligan. So in a mulligan format, like this guy is got potential to just literally win on turn 2. You just hard play it turn 1 with the sources you need, and then turn 2 you just win. Literally. All right, next we got Aegismon or Aegisdramon. I forget if it has the Dra or not. This is another one of those decks that just hasn't done anything. There is some cool stuff, though. You know what? I'm going to put it in tier 3 because of all the support we're getting in BT15. We have a lot of new blue stuff that has on-play effects, and that's what this deck is all about, is about playing all that stuff from sources, all your blue cards, and so it actually gets some good value there. So you know what? I'll throw it up here into tier 3. We'll kind of see where it falls. It might be mid tier 3 potentially, mid to high tier 3. Just kind of depends. Oh man. BT16, we're getting some support for this deck, but right now, not great. It's hard to set up. Yeah, it's just super hard to set up. To get it to do what it's supposed to do. Like, if you get the pieces there, if you had like godly mills and you could get all the stuff in there, like, yeah, you could pop off on like turn 3, maybe turn 2 if you're like crazy lucky. But realistically, no, that's not going to happen. I will say it's probably higher than most of these decks. Put it in high tier 4. That feels okay. Examon here. Examon, another one of the decks. Kind of like the Bagura. If you don't know how to play around Examon, it will stomp the living crap out of you. And you're going to be at the very end where you're like, that's how you play against it. And then the game's over. And you've lost. So I think we'll throw it up in here. It's high tier 3. It needs a lot of buildup. You're DNAing into a level 7. Anytime your whole deck relies around DNAing into level 7, at least it has ways to like help like mitigate that. You know what? We'll put it at least higher than yellow hybrid here. So we'll put it up there. Yeah, so I mean, it takes a lot of setup. Wouldn't be very frustrating. Next we've got, what is this supposed to represent? Shadow Seraphimon. We've already done Setcon. We've already done Vaccine. I don't know. I'm going to leave it down. Next, we've got the Alter S deck. Another one of those, you can see if you can pop off, you can pop off. It's going to be great. But even if you do pop off, like, you do all that work and you just get into this, and this is just kind of, it's okay. But that's a lot of work to get. It's okay. Moving on from there, I forget what this is. This is from EX5. Where is it? I'm putting it right here next to Kintarismon, because that's where you go. Next we've got, so this is, we got Leopardmon and then the other one. I feel like these go together though. Like, I don't know. Kyle, why did you put both of these guys on here? We'll go ahead and grab this one here though. It can rush. Like, I don't, honestly, it's kind of feeling like Aegishermon. Like, they can both like flood the board pretty nicely. Here, we'll move that down though, because that's like really difficult to set up. What is this? Oh, this is the Monzaemon deck. We're gonna put it up where it's Numemon. Yeah, it's another one it's getting more support. It can, it's got a lot of floaters, so it can just kind of keep bodies on field. Like, it kind of goes hand in hand with the Numemon deck. Like, you run a lot of the same cards. So, yeah, we'll just kind of put these guys together here. Next, we got Heavy Leomon. Yeah, so Heavy Leomon putting in some work. Yeah, let's do it. Let's put up here in tier 1. This was one of the two. I missed Bagro on my last one, and I missed Heavy Leomon. Heavy Leomon's another one. It's difficult. If you can't play around it correctly, you're just screwed. And sometimes you know how to play around it, but your deck doesn't have the tools to do it. And if you don't have the tools to play around the strategies going on here, you just lose. So yeah, we'll put it up here in a low tier 1. I think that's okay. Grace Nova. Oof, Grace Nova's bad. But how bad? Unplayable bad? No, it's not unplayable bad. It's like Sukamon. Like, you gotta see all these very specific things for your deck to do what it's supposed to do. Next we've got Fanglongmon here. This is your Deva deck. Diva, whatever you want to call it. I think it's Deva. Yeah, this deck's solid. Tier 1? Is it tier 1? Yeah. I think it is. I think it is tier 1. We had top 64 at Nats. Like, yeah, I can't knock Fanglongmon. It's done better than a lot of these other decks have. So, granted, the format will change, so that'll be a good indication of where it'll be. But it's another one that's just like, if you don't know how to play around it, you're gonna lose. It can be very frustrating. We'll put it right here below Vaccine Angels. Vaccine Angels getting more support as well. So, not entirely like on par with the rest of Vaccine Angels, but it is getting support. So yeah, we'll put it one level below that. That feels okay there. Next we got Black War Greymon. This is your OTK Black War Greymon. It's another one that's kind of a gimmick. If you see your pieces, cool. You'll do really well with it. It's a high roll deck. If you don't see your stuff fast enough, or if you play against the wrong matchups, you just lose. So we'll put it right there. That feels good, because I feel like literally these other three that are ahead of it, like, are bad matchups for it. So yeah, we'll put it here, high tier 2. It's just really high roll. That Digiburst, Unsuspend, Swing. Digiburst, Unsuspend, Swing. Metal Tyrannomon. Oh god. I mean, it's playable. It's like, it's not. I mean, it's down here though. I mean, it's low. Diaboromon continues to get stuff, but continues to not be enough. Will the new support that they've revealed do anything for it? I don't think the clock is going to do anything, but the rest of the support is cool. It's another one that's like format dependent. Technically in the EX5 format, no, not at all. You can't play Digimon by effects, so you can't play tokens or anything like that. I guess we'll put it down here into like high tier 4. There's just too many things that can like mess this deck up really bad. Ukamon Rush. Yeah, this deck is kind of neat. It's kind of irritating. It just plays all the floodgates in the entire game, pretty much, and turbos them out over and over and over and over. Yeah, we'll put it. You know what? I'm feeling generous. We'll put it in low tier 2. It's like modern Rookie Rush. You just keep getting to promote at a raising area every single turn. So if you can, win, awesome. All right, next we've got Gamamon. Gamamon, it's just, it's got so much that it can do. There's just so many ways to build this deck. But none of them feel correct. None of them feel like they answer all the questions. I feel like you're really gimping yourself in certain areas while performing well in others. Like you can build it to be out like a really fast OTK-ish deck, really aggro heavy, but it doesn't like match up to these other the Greymon decks or anything like that. You're just playing bad Greymon at that point. So yeah, we'll just throw it right down there. That feels fine. The Jellymon deck, it's okay. Like if you follow the channel for a long time, you'll know how I feel about this deck. It's kind of I've had some OTK luck with it, or just like really aggro, jamming, swing, unsuspend, swing against, unsuspend, swing, unsuspend, swing. Like you can do a whole lot of that, and you get that jamming. Like it feels really good. I mean, we're talking like a watered down Garurumon sort of deck here, because you have to trash like a lot of cards to get that kind of value. I'll throw it up in here though. I feel fine about that. It like literally your opponent puts down a single blocker and you're like, okay, I lose because I can't get past your blocker. Like that's it. My single stack is attacking multiple times, and if you put anything that'll kill it, then I just lose. At least Garuru has like full protection from battle. So you block me once, well I unsuspend and I swing like 3 more times. Where this is like, you block me, I die instantly. Like okay. We got our rabbit deck. This is Angormon. I think this is pretty unplayable. It just doesn't do anything. There's just not enough synergy at all. Mastamon. I think Mastamon's still solid. It's more playable than BL Star, that's for sure. Let's see, where do we want to put this? I think it's maybe right above Rosemon. I feel fine about that. It's got some good stuff. We're getting more support in the future, though. The new Lady Devi and the new Angelmon, oh my god, chef's kiss. That's exactly the cards Mastay has needed to be viable. Those cards will be great when they get here in like 6 months for us English players. Until then, though, Mastamon's very slow and can be very luck-based. If you don't see really specific pieces fast enough, it can be bad, but it at least has the control element. So once you do get there, like you're in it, you're in the game at that point. You're clearing bodies, you're clearing tamers, you're recovering, you're doing really good control stuff. So that's nice about it, at least. So yeah, it's just a matter of getting there before your opponent kills you. We got Ragnalordmon here. Been getting reveals for the new set for Ragnalordmon. Unfortunately, I still think this is pretty unplayable. You need to get all the way up into a level 7, like DNA. And with like the pure, like Ragnalordmon as a level 7, yes, very cool, very powerful card. You can throw it into Machinedramon, you can throw it into Black War Greymon, like it's there. It's got solid potential to be very, very powerful at level 7. The pure Ragnalordmon deck, though, no. I don't think so. Hercules Kabuterimon, we got a new Insectoid deck, tons of new support for it. The new baby that goes with it, it's really cool. That end of turn, you get to just attack one of your opponent's Digimon with one of yours. So you have this big 4 Evo cost, which normally would pass turn, and there's no blitz, but the baby kind of makes up for that. It allows you to swing. You have piercing. When you pierce, you delete opponent's Digimon by battle, the new inheritables will gain you memory. So you can actually just bring it right back to your turn again with the amount of memory that you gain. So I think that's really cool. It's very untested, though, so I'm going to throw it up here mid-tier 3. That feels okay. Let's see, what do we got next? This is the new Ryutamon deck. The Oriumon. Digipolice. mixing it with Digipolice, like with your D Brigade, Digipolice stuff, I think the deck is still pretty good. Being able to run the the Brigadiermon and stuff like that, I feel like I want to put it right about here in like lower tier 2. Like the Oriumon stuff is just okay, but like the Evo into Brigadiermon for 0, that's cool. That's really powerful. So stuff like that, it can be a little bit more aggro, like aggressive, like damage than D Brigade can. D Brigade, like Digipolice, can be very defensive, like wall of blockers and stuff like that. Whereas this is like, hey, I've got Alliance. I can punch some stuff really, really hard with piercing. So that's cool. Next up, oh god, Leviamon X. Oh god, if y'all haven't read this card, this and the new option, yeah, go read that and then read the Waru Siegermon as well. This might be like, god, way up here. This is my hot take. I don't even know if it's hot because I feel like everyone should like be agreeing with this. Leviamon X is stupid strong. Evos for free from trash. Normally, what's a 5 or 6 Evo cost? Gets to delete a level 5 or level 3, 5, and 7. If you have the option, it also deletes a level 4 and a level 6. Big nuke to the opponent's board. Yeah, that hurts. It's 14,000 DP and security attack +2 and has piercing on the Waru Siegermon. Yeah. This thing is going to be a menace, like an absolute menace. Now that the other purple cards are gone, Leviamon X is going to be here to kick butt and take names. All right, next we got Phoenixmon here. Oh man, where do we put Phoenixmon? It's got lots of new support here. It's pretty decent floaters. I just don't know if it's like does enough. I'm gonna put it lower-ish tier 3. Like it's got a good amount of support to like choose from and kind of build from, so it's got that going for it at least. So I guess time will just kind of tell. No, I don't think it's a deck that people are excited about playing. I think that's its biggest issue is people just don't want to play this. Like why bother? I could play something else. So if that's going to be the issue, then the deck won't do anything. Apocalypse, is this now unplayable? Is this now unplayable? At 1 copy, I don't think the rest of the deck doesn't do anything. I just don't think the rest of the deck does anything. You're literally, the whole deck is built around this guy, getting him out and like doing stuff with him. Like the rest of the deck is just blah. You give your opponent a ton of memory to not really do much of anything. That said, if you can get into this guy and you bring cards that have recursion abilities that, grab from trash, you have to be a generic because he is a white. So you have to bring stuff that grabs anything. Like, what is it? That purple, what the new purple matte card, like something friendship. It can grab a Digimon out of trash as a 3 play cost. So if your opponent does clear this, and you can bring it back again off of that, and then hard play it, and then keep trying to mill your opponent out. I just don't know if you can do enough. Like 1 copy, is this even worth trying to run? Man, I'm gonna put it unplayable. At 1 copy, your whole deck revolves around this 1 card. If it ends up in security, and it's like the bottom card of security, you can't win. Like, you just don't think you can do it. So yeah, I'm just gonna put it in unplayable for multiple reasons. I mean, if you're still listening to me at this point, part of me just wants people not to play this stupid deck because it's so just toxic, so toxic. I mean, it's like worse than SetCon. At least SetCon, it's like I'm giving you a chance to like win. This deck is like, no, I'm gonna mill you out like next turn. Yeah, it's you're milling 10 cards this turn, right? And then next turn you're gonna mill 12 cards. So if you're not, by 22 cards by the time I get this out, we had 10 already on the opening, and then by the time you get to this card, you're at least another 10 deep. So that's 42 cards now out of your deck. Yeah. That is stupid. Now we got the Alliance deck. I think the Alliance deck is solid. I actually won locals somehow with this deck. I mean, it wasn't against like crazy matchups or anything, but It's getting more support. I think it's on par with Rosemon, which is a coincidence because these are both my wife's decks. So for them to be kind of like be playing together there, I think that's pretty fair. Yeah, I mean, Alliance is cool. It's very efficient. Like, out of all the Alliance stuff, I think it's even more efficient than Lugamon is at doing what it does, because you get to play the body for free, and then, like, there's all these synergies with Alliance effects, so that's great. Yeah, so I think this deck is going to be fine. Where it's at there, high tier 3 feels pretty good. And then the rest of these, I just don't really want to touch, because one, I don't really know where some of these are supposed to go, or like what they are, like what they're supposed to represent. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. I know it's a long video, just over an hour or just under an hour, depending on where the edits go. Hope you guys enjoyed. If I missed anything somehow, let me know, and I'll give you my opinion of where it should go. If you disagree with me, please put it in the comments. You can argue with me till you're blue in the face. If you do agree with me, put it in the comment section below. Which one do you agree with most on this list? What is your most agreed upon hot take?